everybody, and welcome back to Lindsey's Little Library and the freezing cold Wisconsin. Like, I have my blanket and everything. It's chilly, but that's okay because I have some time to read some books and think about some videos and share some recommendations with you guys. So really, you're the one that's winning in all of this. Anyways, I thought I'd come on here today because I was in the midst of setting up some reminders and doing some book club related administrative work, and thought that, you know, sometimes my book club struggles to pick out what books might lead to some really great discussions or might just be a really great book club type of a book. And we've been meeting each other for, I think we're up to like 7 years now. Yeah, 7 years that my in real life book club has been meeting. The one I do at work, it's been a couple of years. I have another one that just started. So I've kind of got my hands in a few book clubs kind of throughout my reading journey. And I have slowly discovered and figured out what books tend to make really good book club books and what books maybe aren't the best to pick. So I thought I'd share with you the types of books that I know my book clubs really enjoyed and that had created some really great conversation throughout the book club meeting. Now, if you're a type of book club that just likes to read the book and get together and maybe not always discuss it, or it's just a reason to gather, cool, totally cool, that's fine. Have fun. I've been part of those book clubs. They are a good time. I've also known of a few book clubs that do read whatever you want and come and talk about it. Also think it's awesome. But these are for book clubs that are looking for picking one specific book that everybody reads and then discussing it at the end. So I have kind of 4 categories. Well, there's maybe a little more that we tend to gravitate towards, and that's just my book club alone. The first one that we find some pretty decent success with are memoirs. So for example, we read Made as a book club. And this again led to some really great discussion. This also led to a few book club members looking into Stephanie Land and learning a little bit more about her and her life, and kind of going a little bit deeper into her story. This one follows Stephanie Land as she is trying to pull herself out of poverty. She starts working as a maid and the interesting things that she learns along the way. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was great. I really liked it. A few other memoirs that we've read that were really great with our book club. One is High Achiever by Tiffany Jenkins. Forgot about that for a second. And then If You Tell by Greg Olson. Fantastic stories about, you know, their experiences and what they went through, and definitely led to some really great discussions. All right. Another, I guess, genre that tends to resonate really well with my book club is historical fiction. Specifically historical fiction that is based around some sort of true person, true event, true story, something like that. So a couple of examples I have that fit that category. We have The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. This one follows the Dust Bowl in Texas in the early 1920s, and kind of the Great War's over, things are looking really great. Elsa is deemed kind of too old for marriage until she meets Rafe, and they kind of quickly fall in love and decide to get married. Fast forward a little bit to 1934. So early 1920s to 1934, the world looks a lot different. We are devastated in the Great Plains because of this really horrible drought that's going on. People's livelihoods have been uprooted because of the Great Depression. And we find our characters now married for a number of years. They have children, and kind of what are they going to do to navigate this new world. There's a lot of talk about dust in this book, I'm not gonna lie. There are little parts that are slow, but man, if you as a book club read this together, there's a lot of really great discussion topics within The Four Winds. Another one I suggest is Crow Mary. This one we actually did as the Historathon group read for this year and had a really, really great discussion on this book. And then I did this with my work book club as well. So this one's by Kathleen Grissom. Kathleen Grissom also wrote The Kitchen House, another fantastic book club read as well, if you ask me. But this one follows the life of Crow Mary as she is a Crow Indian woman growing up during the time of, let me think, we're at late 1800s, 1872 Montana Territory. And the Indians' culture and way of life is really, really being challenged by Americans. She ends up actually marrying a fur trader, a white man, and it's an interesting story of how she is balancing both worlds, how she's continuing to survive and flourish, honoring her history and her past, but yet understanding and trying to fit into the world that she lives in. So it was amazing. I loved it. Parts of it were a little slow. I shouldn't say slow. Were written not the best, but the story itself, I think, leads to some really, really great discussion. All right, this next one kind of toes the line between historical fiction and magical realism a little bit, and then kind of slowly gets us into a little bit of fantasy. So I'm talking about The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. So this one follows our main character, Carly. She is a young woman widowed by the Vietnam War and receives news that her unborn baby girl has a heart defect. We are talking about it's 1970. She's told there's nothing that can be done about it. But her brother-in-law, who's a physicist, with a very mysterious past, tells her that perhaps there's a way to save her child. When he suggests is something that will shatter every preconceived notion that Carly has and will require some strength and courage that she didn't know existed, to literally take a leap of faith to save her daughter. You have to, I know it's not in this, but there are elements of time travel in this book. So know that going into it. I don't want anybody to be deceived in thinking that there isn't something in there. So having that little bit of that time travel element that maybe isn't something your book club normally will gravitate towards kind of helps push you outside your comfort zone, but still gives you maybe that more contemporary or historical fiction story feel that you're used to. It helps you kind of explore that different genre a little bit, while keeping the subject matter pretty close to home. Like, what would you do to save your child, basically? Really great story. I loved it. It was so fantastic. Awesome discussions for a book club book. Then we get into the realm a little bit of some fantasy type books. So this is The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This one, if you don't know already, follows Linus Baker. He works for the department in charge of magical youth. So we are full-blown going into a fantastical type of a world where there's magical creatures and magical people, and there's magical orphans out there. So he is summoned by upper management and basically said, you have to go to this orphanage and you need to report out on it. And this orphanage is really unique. It houses the most dangerous of magical children out there, like the Devil's Son, and Chauncey, who is basically the Blob. So you have to go out there and be careful, but you need to report back on it and make sure everything is kosher. And he does, and the story goes from there and evolves from there, and it's a hug in a book. So again, if your book club is looking to explore some different genres that maybe you're not comfortable with, this one is a really great place to start and gives you so much context to talk about, because some of the things that Linus faces are similar things that we may face in our world. So loved that book. So then we get into the stack of books that I call, they're my thinkers. So these books are great for book club because as you're reading them, you are forced to kind of ask yourself that question of, what would I do, and what do I believe, and what do I think is right, and what do I think is wrong, and do I hop on board and support this character, or do I not, or whatever that might look like. So quite the array of options here. Basically anything by Jodi Picoult is a fantastic book club pick. Any one of her books. She's the queen of taking difficult, situations and forcing you to look them straight in the eye and really, really question, do I really believe what I thought I believed? Do I not? What would I do? How does this specific situation change maybe what I think I believed? Mad Honey is no exception. Jodi also does a fantastic job of giving you this second layer of knowledge. So this one, Mad Honey, hello, talks about bees a ton. Leaving Time talks about elephants. Lone Wolf talks about wolves. Between Two Worlds, it's a lot of Egyptian history. She is this queen of giving you these really uncomfortable situations, causing you to think morally, but also educating you at the same time. So awesome book club books. We have read a number of Jodi Picoult books for our book club and always have a really great discussion every time. Again, another one that maybe puts you in this like, what do I even think about this book? So All the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood does that to me and pretty much everybody that I talk to who has read this book. So we have Wavy, who is the daughter of drug dealers. And she is, how old is she? She is struggling to raise her little brother, Daniel. 8-year-old Wavy is the only responsible adult around. So at the time that you're starting this story, she's only 8. She's basically the guardian of her brother. She's the only one that makes sure he eats and gets to school and gets clean and is dressed and all that fun stuff. She likes to find peace outside at night, looking at the stars. And one night, her stargazing causes an accident. So witnessing a motorcycle wreck, she forms a very unusual friendship with one of her father's thugs. His name is Kellen. He's an ex-con, tattooed, but a heart of gold. And he is starting to notice as they are friends and as Kellen is around and as Wavy approaches her being a teenager, how kind of disregarded and forgotten she is and kind of has this very interesting relationship with her. And they have a very interesting relationship with each other. And then there we go. Yeah, Kellen is just trying to protect Wavy from the world, and it's crazy. It's crazy, but it's such a good book to read for book club. A couple more. We have The Chain by Adrienne McKinty. This is more thrillery, suspensefully, but again, ask you the questions of what would you do. So we have one morning, Rachel drops her daughter off at the bus stop and heads about her day and gets a call from an unknown number that basically says Kylie has been kidnapped. We have her, and the only way you will ever get her back again is if you pay a ransom and kidnap another child. As soon as you kidnap another child, put out that ransom for those parents to pay, we will then release your daughter because the chain continues to live on. Her daughter's kidnapped because this other person, the kidnapper's child, was also kidnapped. And so they're fulfilling this chain that you're stuck in. And again, wild ride of figuring out how to navigate this, what to do. Do you do that? Do you, all of those unknowns. Really great discussion for book club. Another one, The Measure, Nikki Erlich. Again, great discussion because this one is the premise of everyone in the world receives a box, and inside the box is a length of string. And that length of string correlates to how long your life is. Is it short? Is it long? Is it medium? What does it look like? Do you open the box? Do you not? Do you tell people? Do you not? Do you force people to open the box and tell people? All of those things come to play, and we get to experience that with a number of different characters in The Measure who make various decisions faced with this scenario. So again, great book club discussion. Then you have the option, and hopefully if you're lucky enough to be able to connect with an author, one of our best book club meetings are when we get to read a book by the author and the author gets to join us and we get to kind of pick their brain a little bit. And that happened when we read Miracle Creek, and Angie Kim came virtually to our book club meeting to discuss her writing process and how she thought of this book and what's the next book and where she gets her inspiration. And it just brings so much more to a book club meeting when you kind of get to know those behind the scene things behind the story that you're reading. Miracle Creek is a really interesting thriller. More takes place in a courtroom about an immigrant family and a young single mother accused of killing her autistic son. How far will you go to protect your families and your deepest secrets is basically the premise. I really liked this book. And again, had a great time talking to Angie Kim about it. So those are a pile of books for you to think about of what makes a really great book club book pick. I will share with you some of the books that I think don't make the best book club picks. Your easy read rom-coms or romances don't always make the best book club picks. There's not always a lot to discuss in them. Same with like a traditional thriller book doesn't always make one either. You're kind of faced with like, well, did you like the writing style and the pace, and did you guess what was happening? And you're kind of fizzle out with things to discuss after that. If you look at books that just have a little more meat to them, they tend to make a better discussion. That's just what we've experienced in our book club before. Doesn't mean that we're not going to pick up an Abby Jimenez book or an Emily Henry book to read. We just know that when we do meet, we'll talk about it for a little bit and probably veer off into other bookish type discussions after that. So those are my thoughts. If you are part of a book club, I would love to hear that below and tell me some of the best books that you've picked for your book club that maybe led to some really great discussions or that your book club liked the most. I would love to compile that list below and have a lot more options and ideas for us to, kind of have in our back pocket when we're picking books. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.